Reproduction in Organisms. Chapter Reproduction in Organism. Plus 2, Chapter 1. Let's go into the chapter Reproduction in Organisms. Before we enter into the chapter, let's revise once the scientist Panchanan Maheshwari, and then after we'll get into the chapter. The born in November, Panchanan Maheshwari, born in November 1994, that in Jaipur, Rajasthan. Panchanan Maheshwari rose to become one of the most distinguished botanists not only of India but of the entire world. He moved to Allahabad for higher education where he obtained his DSc. During his college days, he was inspired by Dr. Dudjian, an American missionary teacher, to develop interest in botany and especially morphology. His teacher once expressed that if his student progresses ahead of him, it will give him a great satisfaction. These words encouraged Panchanan to inquire what he could do for his teacher in return. He worked on embryological aspects and popularized the use of embryological characters in taxonomy. He established the Department of Botany. University of Delhi has an important center of research in embryology and tissue culture. He also emphasized the need for initiation of the work on artificial culture of immature embryos. These days, tissue culture has become a landmark in science. His work on test tube fertilization and intra-ovarian pollination won worldwide acclaim. He was honored with a fellowship of Royal Society of London, FRS, Indian National Science Academy, and several other institutions of the excellence. He encouraged general education and made a significant contribution to the school education by his leadership in bringing out the very first textbooks of biology for higher secondary schools published by NCRT in 1964. So that's all about the Panchanan Maheshwari. Then let's get into the topic. Reproduction in organisms. Each and every organism can live only for a certain period of time. The period from birth to the natural death of an organism represents its lifespan. The lifespans of few organisms are given here in the below figure 1.1. We look forward that several other organisms are drawn for which you should find out their lifespan and write in the spaces provided. Yes, we'll write. Examine the lifespans of organisms represented in the figure 1.1. Isn't it both interesting and intriguing to note that it may be as short as few days or as long as few thousand years? Between the two extremes are the lifespans of the most other living organisms. You may note that lifespans of organisms are not necessarily correlated with their sizes. Lifespan of organisms are not necessarily correlated with their sizes. The sizes of crows and parrots are not very different, and their lifespan show a wide difference. Similarly, a mango tree has a much shorter lifespan as compared to a peepal tree. Whatever be the lifespan, death of every individual organism is a certainty. That is, no individual is immortal except the single-celled organisms. Why do we say there is no natural death in single-celled organism? Given this reality, have you ever wondered how vast number of plant and animal species have existed on Earth for several thousands of years? There must be some processes in living organisms that ensure this continuity. Yes, we are talking about reproduction, something that we take for granted. We discussed about lifespan, so let's take a look on the lifespans. Some are given blank, we'll fill that blanks. That elephant 70 to 90 years. Lifespan of elephant is 70 to 90 years. Rose is about 35 years. The lifespan, nearly we are writing here, nearly we are writing. A dog, 20 to 25 years. Lifespan of the dog is about 20 to 25 years. You may see 30 also in some books, no matter. The banana tree. Okay, let's complete this. First of all, let's go through this. Elephant, 70 to 90 years. Rose plant, 35 years. 20 to 25 years. Dog, And let's go to the lower one, banana tree, that is about 25 years. Lifespan of banana tree is about 25 years. Nearby, we can say in some books you'll find 13 years, in some 15 years. That nearby we have to talk about. Okay, cow. Cow is about 25 years, 25 to 30 years, the cow lifespan. A horse. That horse is 30 to 40 years. Crocodile is given already. That crocodile 60 years. The horse lifespan is about 30 to 40 years. Parrot is given 140 years. That parrot 140, 150 likewise. That parrot lifespan. Fruit fly. Fruit fly lifespan nearly 2 months, or we say 40 to 50 days. Not years. These are days. Everything we calculate years, but here fruit fly 40 to 50 days. So banana tree 25 years, cow 25 to 30 years, then crocodile 60 years, parrot 140 years, and horse 30 to 40 years, fruit fly 40 to 50 days, only 40 to 50 days. Rice plant. Rice plant is about 4 months. Lifespan of rice plant is about 4 months. Banyan tree. It lives about 200 to 300 years. It was noticed more than that also. The average lifespan we are talking about 200 to 300 years. Sometimes is given 100 to 150 years. Okay. So these are all the lifespans of organisms here. Lifespans of organisms. So what you see that variations in the lifespan. So isn't it both interesting and intriguing to note that it may be as short as few days or as long as a few thousand years? Between these two extremes are the lifespans of most other living organisms. You may note that lifespans of organisms are not necessarily correlated with their sizes by looking all of them. The sizes of crows and parrots are not very differently at their lifespan show a wide difference. Similarly, a mango tree has a much shorter lifespan as compared to a peepal tree. Whatever be the lifespan, death of every individual organism is a certainty. That is, no individual is immortal except a single-celled organism. Why do we say there is no natural death in single-celled organism? Given this reality, have you ever wondered how vast number of plant and animal species have existed on Earth for several thousands of years? There must be some processes in living organisms that ensure this continuity. Yes, we are talking about reproduction, something that we take for granted. Let's talk about the reproduction as we are seeing the lifespans of organisms. Reproduction is defined as a biological process. Reproduction is defined as a biological process in which an organism gives rise to young ones or offspring similar to itself. Young ones or offspring which are similar to itself. The offspring grow, mature, and in turn produce new offspring. Thus, there is a cycle of birth, growth, and death. Reproduction enables the continuity of the species, generation after generation. We will study later in chapter 5 in the principles of inheritance and variation how genetic variation is created and inherited during reproduction. There is a large diversity in the biological world, and each organism has evolved its own mechanism to multiply and reproduce the offspring. The organism's habitat, its internal physiology, and several other factors are collectively responsible for how it reproduces. Based on whether there is a participation of an organism or two in the process of reproduction, it is of two types. When offspring is produced by a single parent or with or without the involvement of the gamete formation, the reproduction we say asexual reproduction. Then offspring is produced by a single parent with or without the involvement of a gamete formation. The reproduction is asexual. When the two parents, opposite sex, participate in the reproductive process and also involve fission of male and female gametes, it is called sexual reproduction. When two parents or opposite sex participate in the reproductive process and also involved in the fission of male and female gametes, it is called sexual reproduction. Hence, first let us see asexual reproduction. In this method, a single individual, a parent, is capable of producing offspring As a result, the offspring that are produced are not only identical to one another, but are also exact copies of the parent. Then are these offspring likely to be genetically identical or different? So definitely genetically identical. The term clone is used to describe such morphologically and genetically similar individuals. So in the asexual reproduction, a single individual is capable of producing offspring. As a result, the offspring that are produced are not only identical to one another but also the exact copies of their parent. Are these offsprings likely to be genetically identical or different? The term clone is used to describe such morphologically and genetically similar individuals. You see in the diagram, a parent cell and a bud is growing here. In the diagram, cell division in unicellular organism, that budding in the yeast they are shown, budding in the yeast, and then a binary fission in amoeba, where first the karyokinesis occurs, the division of nucleus, the karyokinesis, division of nucleus divided and reached to two, and along with that cytoplasmic division, which results the formation of two daughter individuals. That is binary fission, we use it to say. Let us see how widespread asexual reproduction is. Among different groups of organisms, asexual reproduction is common among single-celled organisms. Asexual reproduction is common among single-celled organisms. And in plants and animals with relatively simple organization, in that will find that asexual reproduction. In protists and monerans, the organism or the parent cell. In protists and monerans, the organism or the parent cell divides into two to give rise the new individuals. That organism, that in case of protista and monera, the organisms or the parent cell divides into two to give rise to the new individual. Thus, in these organisms, cell division is itself a mode of reproduction. In the Monera and Protista, the cell division is itself a mode of reproduction. Many in which Monera and Protista, that to be remembered over, because they are single-celled organisms, they grow, they divide, and they form the daughter individuals. So that's why that in Monera and Protista, cell division is itself a mode of reproduction. Many single-celled organisms reproduce by binary fission, where a cell divides into two halves and each rapidly grows into an adult, like amoeba and paramecium. In yeast, the division is unequal. In case of yeast, the division is unequal, and small buds are produced that remain attached initially to the parent cell, which eventually get separated and mature into two new yeast organisms. Then members of the kingdom fungi and simple plants such as algae, members of the kingdom fungi and simple plants such as algae reproduce through special asexual reproductive structures. The most common of these structures are zoospores, that is usually are microscopic motile structures. The microscopic motile structure zoospores. And other common sexual reproductive structures are conidia in penicillium, birds in hydra, gemmules in the sponge. Okay, so zoospores, the most common the gamete that usually are microscopic and motile structure. Then in case of kingdom fungi and in simple plants such as algae, reproduce through a special asexual reproductive structures like the most common of these structures are zoospores that usually are microscopic and motile structures. Other common asexual reproductive structures are conidia in penicillium, birds in case of hydra and gemmules in the sponge. See the diagrams. Here we get diagrams as question that eyes of potato and rhizomes of ginger. You see here the eyes of potato and the rhizome in the ginger. And in case of C, that bulbil of agave, and at the leaf buds of bryophyllum, offset of water hyacinth. Offset. Let's get into the topic. You have learned about the vegetative reproduction in plants in class 11. What do you think? Is vegetative reproduction also a type of asexual reproduction? Why do you say so? Is the term clone applicable to the offspring formed by the vegetative reproduction? While in animals and other simple organisms, the term asexual is used unambiguously. In plants, the term vegetative reproduction is frequently used. In plants, the units of vegetative propagation such as runner, rhizome, sucker, tuber, offset, bulb are all capable of giving rise to new offspring. These structures are called vegetative propagules. These structures are called vegetative propagules. Obviously, since the formation of these structures does not involve the two parents, the process involved is asexual. Okay, so that you must have heard about the scourge of the water bodies or about the terror of Bengal. This is nothing but the aquatic plant, water hyacinth, aquatic plant water hyacinth, which is one of the most invasive weeds found growing wherever there is standing water. It drains oxygen. It drains oxygen from the water, which leads to the death of fishes. You will learn more about it in chapters 13 and 14. You may find it interesting to know that this plant was introduced in India because of its beautiful flowers and the shape of leaves, since it can propagate vegetatively at a phenomenal rate and spread all over water body in a short period of time. It is very difficult to get rid of them. That's the story of water hyacinth, the terror of Bengal. Are you aware how plants like potato, sugarcane, banana, ginger, dahlia are cultivated? Have you seen some plants emerging from the birds called eyes of the, like in case of potato tuber, from the rhizomes of banana and ginger? When you carefully try to determine the site of origin of the new plantlets in the plants listed above, you will notice that they invariably arise from the nodes present in the modified stems of these plants. When the nodes come in contact with the damp soil or water, they produce roots and new plants. Similarly, adventitious buds arise from the notches present at margins of leaves of bryophyllum. Similarly, adventitious buds arise from the notches present at margins of leaves of bryophyllum. This ability is fully exploited by gardeners and farmers for commercial propagation of such plants. It is interesting to note that asexual reproduction is a common method of reproduction in organisms that have relatively simple organization like algae and fungi, and that they shift to the sexual mode of method of reproduction just before the onset of adverse condition. Find out how sexual reproduction enables these organisms to survive during unfavorable conditions. Why is sexual reproduction favored under such conditions? Sexual or vegetative as well as the sexual modes of reproduction are exhibited by the higher plants. On the other hand, only sexual mode of reproduction is present in most of the animals. Let's talk about the sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction involves the formation of the male and female gametes either by the same individual or by different individuals of the opposite sex. These gametes fuse to form the zygote, which develops to form the new organism. It is an elaborate and complex and slow process as compared to asexual reproduction. Because of the fission of male and female gametes, sexual reproduction results in offspring that are not identical to the parents or amongst themselves. A study of diverse organisms, plants, animals, or fungi show that though they differ so greatly in external morphology, internal structure, and physiology, when it comes to sexual mode of reproduction, surprisingly, they share a similar pattern. Let us first discuss what features are common to these diverse organisms. All organisms have to reach a certain stage of growth and maturity in their life before they can reproduce sexually. That period of growth, that period of growth is called juvenile phase. It is known as vegetative phase in plants. In animals, it is called juvenile phase, known as vegetative phase in plants. This phase is of variable durations in different organisms. The end of juvenile or vegetative phase, which marks the beginning of the reproductive phase, can be seen easily in the higher plants when they come to flower. How long does it take for a marigold, rice, or wheat, or coconut, or mango plants to come to flower? In some plants, where flowering occurs more than once, but what do you call the interflowering period, juvenile or mature? So observe a few trees in your area. Do they flower during the same month, year after year? What do you think are availability of the fruits like mango, apple, jackfruit, etc. are seasonal? Are there some plants that flower throughout the year and some others that show seasonal flowering? Plants, the annual and biennial type, some show clear-cut vegetative, reproductive, and senescent phases. But in the perennial species, it is very difficult to clearly define these phases. A few plants exhibit, a few plants exhibit unusual flowering phenomenon. Some of them, such as bamboo species, flower only once in their lifetime. Bamboo species flower only in their lifetime. Generally, after 50 to 100 years, produce large number of fruits and die. Another plant, Strobilanthus kunthiana, Neelakuranji. Strobilanthus kunthiana, Neelakuranji flowers once in 12 years. As many of you would know, this plant flowered during September-October 2006. Its mass flowering transformed large tracts of hilly areas in Kerala, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu into blue stretches and attracted a large number of tourists. Okay, so that which plant? That Strobilanthus kunthiana, that Neelakuranji. The plant is called commonly Neelakuranji flowers once in 12 years. Then, as many of you would know, that this plant flowered during September, October 2006. It's that mass flowering transformed large tracts of hilly areas in Kerala, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu into blue stretches and attracted large number of tourists. In animals, the juvenile phase is followed by morphological and physiological changes prior to active reproductive behavior. The reproductive phase is also of a variable duration in different organisms. Can you list the changes seen in human beings that are indicative of reproductive maturity? Among animals, for example, birds, they lay eggs all through the year, or it is seasonal phenomenon. What about the other animals like frogs and lizards? You will notice that birds living in nature lay eggs only seasonally. However, birds in captivity, as in poultry farms, can be made to lay eggs throughout the year. In this case, the laying eggs is not related to the reproduction, but it is a commercial exploitation for human welfare. The females of the placental mammals exhibit cyclical changes in the activities of the ovaries and accessory ducts as well as the hormones during the reproductive phase. In non-primate mammals like cows, sheep, rat, deer, dog, tiger, etc., such cyclical changes during reproduction are called estrus cycle, are called as estrus cycle. Whereas in primates, monkeys, apes, and humans, it is called menstrual cycle. So in case of primates like monkeys, apes, and humans, it is called menstrual cycle. Many mammals, especially those living in natural wild condition, exhibit such cycles only during favorable seasons in their reproductive phase and are therefore called seasonal breeders. Many other mammals are reproductively active through their reproductive phase and hence are called continuous breeders, seasonal breeders and continuous breeders. Estrous cycle, menstrual cycle to be focused. That we all grow old if we live long enough is something that we recognize. But what is meant by growing old? The end of reproductive phase can be considered as one of the parameters of senescence or old age. There are that concomitant changes in the body, like slowing of metabolism during this last phase of lifespan. Old age is ultimately leads to the death. In both plants and animals, hormones are responsible for the transitions between the three phases. Interactions between the hormones and certain environmental factors regulate the reproductive processes and the associated behavioral expression of an organism. Events in sexual reproduction. After attainment of maturity, all sexually reproducing organisms exhibit events and processes that have remarkable fundamental similarity, even though the structure associated with the sexual reproduction are indeed very different. The events of sexual reproduction through collab that elaborate and complex follow a regular sequence. Sexual reproduction is characterized by the fusion, fertilization of the male and female gametes, the formation of zygote, and embryogenesis. For convenience, these sequential events may be grouped into three distinct stages, namely pre-fertilization, fertilization, and post-fertilization events. Pre-fertilization, fertilization, and post-fertilization events. Pre-fertilization events. These include all the events of sexual reproduction prior to the fission of gametes. The two main pre-fertilization events are gametogenesis and gamete transfer. Gametogenesis and gamete transfer. Let's see the gametogenesis. As you already aware, gametogenesis refers to the process of formation of the two types of gametes, male and female. Gametes are haploid cells. Gametes are haploid cells. In some algae, the two gametes are so similar in appearance that it is not possible to categorize them into male and female gametes. In some algae, the two gametes are so similar in appearance that it is not possible to categorize them into male and female gametes. There you can see that isogamy, the condition we say that isogametes of cladophora, an algae you can see here, and the heterogametes of fucus and algae. There you can see here that heterogametes, one, two, these two are the gametes. Okay, next, the heterogametes of the Homo sapien. This is sperm and this is ovum in case of Homo sapien, human being, sperm and ovum. They are hence called homogametes. That gametes are similar in shape and size, hence we say homogametes or isogametes. However, in majority of sexual reproducing organisms, the gametes are produced that produce two morphologically distinct types. We call them as heterogametes. In such organism, the male gamete is antherozoid or sperm, and the female gamete is called egg or ovum. The sexuality in organisms. Sexual reproduction in organisms generally involve the fusion of gametes from two different individuals. But this is not always true. From your recollection of examples studied in class 11, can you identify the cases where self-fertilization is observed? Of course, citing such examples in plants is easy. Plants may have both male-female reproductive structures in the same plant or on different plant. Bisexual in the same plant, if they are in different plant, unisexual. In several fungi and plants, terms such as homothallic and monoecious are used to denote the bisexual condition. And heterothallic and dioecious are the terms used to describe the unisexual condition. Okay, so do remember that in several fungi and plant, terms such as homothallic and monoecious are used to denote the bisexual condition, and heterothallic and dioecious are the terms used to describe unisexual condition. In flowering plants, the unisexual male flower is staminate. Unisexual male flower is staminate, that is bearing stamens, while the female is pistillate or bearing pistils. In flowering plant, the unisexual male flower is staminate, that is bearing stamens, while the female is pistillate or bearing pistils. In some flowering plants, both male female flowers may be present on the same individual, monoecious or in separate individual. We call dioecious. Some examples of monoecious plants are cucurbits. Monoecious plant example, cucurbit, coconuts, And of dioecious plant, example for dioecious plants are papaya and date palm. Papaya and date palm are dioecious plants. Cucurbits, coconuts are monoecious plants. Cucurbit and coconut are monoecious plants. Papaya and date palm are dioecious plants. Name the type of gametes that are found in staminate and pistillate flowers. But what about animals? Are individuals of all species either male or female, unisexual? Are there species of which possess both a reproductive organism, bisexual? You probably can make a list of several unisexual animal species: earthworm, a sponge, tapeworm, and leech. Typical examples for bisexual animal: earthworm, sponge, tapeworm, and leech are typical examples for bisexual animals that possess both male female reproductive organs, or hermaphrodites, we use it to say. When it comes to the cockroach, cockroach is an example for unisexual, that male female are separate. Then cell division during gamete formation. Cell division during gamete formation. Gametes in all heterogametic species of two types, namely male and female. Gametes are haploid, so the parent gland body from which they arise may be either haploid or diploid. A haploid parent produces gametes by mitotic division. A haploid parent produces gametes by mitotic division. Does this mean that meiosis never occurs in the organisms that are haploid? Carefully examine the flow charts of the life cycle of algae that you have studied in class 11, chapter 3 to get a suitable answer. Several organisms belonging to the Monera, fungi, algae, and bryophytes have haploid plant body. Several organisms belonging to Monera, fungi, algae, and bryophytes have haploid plant body. But in organisms belonging to the pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms, and most of the animals, including human beings, the parental body is diploid. Parental body is diploid. Okay, so in pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms, and most of the animals, including human beings, the parental body is diploid. It is obvious that meiosis, the reduction division, has to occur if diploid body has to produce haploid gametes. In diploid organisms, specialized cells called meiocytes in diploid organism, specialized cells called meiocytes. We call gamete mother cell. They undergo meiosis. At the end of meiosis, only one set of chromosomes gets incorporated into each gamete. Carefully the study table 1.1 and fill the diploid and haploid chromosome numbers of organisms. Is there any relationship in the number of chromosomes of meiocytes and gametes? Let's talk about here that in case of diploid, that human being onwards, we start 46 chromosomes in a human being in diploid condition, that 23 in haploid condition. 46 in diploid condition in human being, 23 in haploid. Housefly. Diploid condition is chromosomes are going to be 12 or 6 pairs. We use it to say the haploid is 6. So rat is given haploid condition is n equal to 21. Here we need to say the diploid 2n equal to 42. 2n equal to 42. Okay. Next, in case of dog, the 2n equal to 78. It is given 2n equal to 78. That means n equal to 39. That means haploid 39, diploid 78. Cat, that n equal to 19, haploid is given. Diploid 2n equal to 38. 2n equal to 38. Fruit fly, the diploid condition is given. 8 chromosomes are given. 2n equal to 8. That means 4 pairs. Haploid 4. 4 chromosomes are given. Okay. Similarly, that Ophioglossum, FN, that haploid is given 630 chromosomes. Haploid. So what we have to do? We need to double that diploid 2n equal to 1260. Then next, in the same way, apple. 34 chromosomes are present in 2n, the diploid condition. N will be 17. Haploid condition will be 17. Next, rice. 12 chromosomes are present in haploid condition and equal to 2. The 2n equal to 24. 2n will be 24. In case of maize, the diploid condition, 20 chromosomes are present in the maize, 2n equal to 20 diploid, haploid, n equal to 10. Potato given haploid as 24 in the gamete, 24. Then in the adult, it will be 2n equal to 48. So butterfly, that 380 in case of butterfly 380. So that how many it is going to be in case of n equal to 190, half, that we have to say. So 190. Next, onion, that n equal to 8 is given. N equal to 8. N equal to 8. Then 2n equal to 16. That's haploid in the gamete, diploid in the organism. Now let's talk about the gamete transfer. After their formation, male and female gamete must be physically brought together to facilitate the fission we call fertilization. Have you ever wondered how the gametes meet? In a majority of organisms, male gamete is motile and the female gamete is stationary. Exceptions are a few fungi and algae, in which both types of gametes are motile. In some fungi and algae, both male and female gametes are motile. There is a need for medium through which the male gametes move. In several simple plants like algae, bryophytes, and pteridophytes, water is a medium through which these gametes transfer takes place. A large number of the male gametes, however, fail to reach the female gamete. To compensate this loss of male gamete during the transport, the number of male gamete produced in several thousand times than the number of female gametes produced. In seed plants, pollen grains are the carriers of the male gametes, and ovule have the egg. Pollen grains produced in anthers, therefore, have to be transferred to the stigma before it can lead to the fertilization. In bisexual or self-fertilizing plants, peace transfer of pollen grains to the stigma is relatively easy as anthers and stigma are located close to each other. The pollen grains soon after they are shed come in contact with the stigma. But in cross-pollinating plants, including dioecious plants, that a specialized event called pollination facilitates the transfer of the pollen grains to the stigma. Pollen grains germinate on the stigma and the pollen tubes carrying the male gametes reach the ovule and discharge male gametes near the egg. In dioecious animals, since male and female gametes are formed in different individuals, the organism must evolve a special mechanism for gamete transfer. Successful transfer and coming together of the gametes is essential for the most critical event in sexual reproduction, the fertilization. So then fertilization. The most vital event of the sexual reproduction is perhaps the fission of gametes. This process is called syngamy, results in the formation of a diploid zygote. The term fertilization is also often used for this process. The term syngamy and fertilization, the two terms are frequently used to interchangeably. What would happen if syngamy does not occur? However, it has to be mentioned here that in some organisms like rotifer, honeybees, and even some lizards and birds, the female gamete undergoes development to form a new organism without fertilization. This phenomenon is called parthenogenesis. Some organisms like rotifers, honeybees, and even some lizards and birds like turkey, the female gamete undergoes development to form new organism without fertilization. This phenomenon is called parthenogenesis. Where does syngamy occur? In most aquatic organisms, such as a majority of algae and fishes as well as amphibians, syngamy occurs in the external medium, water. That means outside the body of the organism. This type of gametic fission is called external fertilization. This type of gametic fission is called external fertilization. Organisms exhibiting the external fertilization show the great synchrony between the sexes and release large number of gametes into the surrounding medium in order to enhance the chances of the syngamy. In order to enhance the chances of syngamy. This happens in the bony fishes and frogs where a large number of offspring are produced. A major disadvantage is that the offspring are extremely vulnerable to predators, threatening their survival up to adulthood. In many terrestrial organisms belonging to the fungi, higher animals such as reptiles, birds, mammals, and a majority of plants, bryophyte, pteridophyte, gymnosperms, angiosperms, that syngamy occurs inside. Syngamy occurs inside the body of the organism. Hence, the process is called internal fertilization. That process we say internal fertilization. In all these organisms, the egg is formed inside the female body where they fuse with the male gamete. In organisms exhibiting the internal fertilization, the male gamete is motile and has to reach the egg in order to fuse with it. In this, even though the number of sperms produced is very large, there is a significant reduction in the number of eggs produced. In seed plants, however, the non-motile male gametes are carried to female gamete by pollen tubes. So that's it. Post-fertilization events. Events in the sexual reproduction after the formation of zygote are called post-fertilization events. The zygote. The formation of the diploid zygote is universal in all sexually reproducing organisms. In organisms with external fertilization, zygote is formed in the external medium, usually in water. Whereas in those exhibiting internal fertilization, zygote is formed inside the body of the organism. The further development, the further development of the zygote depends on the type of life cycle of the organism has and the environment it is exposed to. In organisms belonging to the fungi and algae, zygote develops a thick wall. Zygote develops a thick wall that is resistant to desiccation and damage. Fungi and algae. If it undergoes a period of rest before germination. In organism with haplantic life cycle, an organism with a haplantic life cycle, zygote divides by meiosis to form haploid spores that grow into haploid individuals. Then zygote is a vital link that ensures the continuity of species between organisms of one generation and the next. Every sexually reproducing organism, including human beings, begin life as a single cell, the zygote. Embryogenesis. Embryogenesis refers to the process of the development of the embryo from the zygote. Embryogenesis refers to the process of the development of embryo from the zygote. During embryogenesis, zygote undergoes cell division. During embryogenesis, zygote undergoes cell division. We call mitosis and cell differentiation. Cell division and cell differentiation. While cell divisions increase the number of cells in the developing embryo, cell differentiation helps groups of cells to undergo certain modifications to form specialized tissues and organs to form an organism. I have studied about the process of cell division and differentiation in the previous class. Animals are categorized into oviparous and viviparous based on whether the development of the zygote takes place outside the body of the female parent or inside, whether they lay fertilized egg or unfertilized egg to give the birth to the young one. In oviparous animals like reptiles and birds, the fertilized eggs are covered by hard calcareous shells, are laid in a safe place in the environment. After a period of incubation, young ones hatch out. On the other hand, in viviparous animal, majority of mammals, including human being, are viviparous. The zygote develops into a young one inside the body of the female organism. After attaining a certain stage of growth, the young ones are delivered out from the body of female organism. Because the proper embryonic care and protection, the chances of survival of the young one is greater in viviparous organisms. In flowering plants, the zygote is formed inside the ovule. After fertilization, the sepals and petals and stamens of the flower wither and fall off. Can you name a plant in which the sepal remain attached? The pistil, however, remains attached to the plant. The zygote develops into the embryo and the ovules develop into the seed. Zygote develops into the embryo, ovules develop into the seed. The ovary develops into the fruit, which develops a thick wall called pericarp that is protective in function. After dispersal, seeds germinate under favorable condition to produce new plants. So zygote develops into an embryo and the ovules develop into the seed. Ovary develops into the fruit which develops a thick wall called pericarp that is protective in function. After dispersal, the seeds germinate under favorable conditions to produce the new plants. A few kinds of fruit showing seeds is given here. Yes, in the seed and the pericarp peak. This is the seed and this is pericarp. This is the seed and this is pericarp. Likewise, in some of the plants it was shown.